Yo, what's up? It's someone that's someone, and welcome back to another story mix. Today, we finally got one on Salvia, as requested by a few of you. Salvia is considered to be the most potent, naturally occurring hallucinogen out there, and the makeup of it and the way it acts makes it stand out as one of the most unique and weirdest substances out there. The kind of trips you can have are comparable to DMT, it being able to take you to the deepest corners of existence. But often, it can carry a sort of sinister or dark vibe to it, which makes most find it unenjoyable. Alongside this, many report feelings of dissociation, which makes things even weirder. But I threw in a variety of trips here. There's one really positive one that includes the use of fresh leaves, while the rest are extracts. Then there's one report where someone used it while on other hard drugs, but it doesn't even seem to matter as the user is engulfed by the experience. I'll just let you hear it. Before we get into this, I do want to know many of these are taken from various points in time, so the quality will vary. Besides that, let me know what you guys want to see next. If you like these mixes, you already know, subscribe and hit the like button. But it's been someone that's someone. Without further ado, let's dive right into this.
The Reinsertion. In the past, I've had about 6 breakthrough experiences with Salvia. Before that, I smoked it about 3 times, with heavy doses each time, not experiencing a breakthrough. The more I use it now, the less it seems to take. When it kicks in, the heavy mind-blowing effects last for about 4 minutes, then the after effects last about 20. The setting I prefer is a dark room with a comfortable pillow for my head. I feel most comfortable when I have a reliable friend with me as a sitter. If I am alone, sometimes I am afraid to do it in the dark, so I use it in a natural setting, no buildings, cars, or other man-made things. So yesterday, I took one hit on my friend's back porch. After holding it in for around 20 seconds, I had the same feeling I have every time it kicks in. Then there was no turning back. I get launched into another galaxy. Every time I have this same reoccurring vision, which makes me believe I am having an important revelation that the Salvia goddess desires me to remember. I find myself in the presence of about 4 people. I see them plugging in cartridges into different machines. When they do this, rapid visions flash before my eyes. Then I zoom past rows and rows of systems with cartridges already in them. It is as if I am observing this. These people, who I refer to as the filing family, never see me, but I see them. They do not have definable physical features at all. I know 2 are red and 2 are blue. I feel an overwhelming sense of their presence there before me. Then, they plug the last cartridge in, and I zoom back out of the tunnel I traveled into and find myself back in the familiar setting with slight visual distortion. Heavy closed-eye geographic patterns can also be seen at this stage. In looking back and reflecting on this journey, here is what I make of it. The family I saw is a higher power, some sort of gods of something of that nature. I felt very comfortable in this place. I had the feeling I had been there before. Then what I had discovered is the place where I went was the central mainframe of the spiritual world. These people plug in cartridges into machines. The machines are people's energy forms that take on no physical features until the cartridge is plugged in. This cartridge holds an entire life of the person. They are then inserted into the world wherever it may be. Mine is Earth. Then they have an entire history and future predetermined by the information in the cartridge. No one can disprove this theory, that is, unless you remember your birth. I believe the second you are plugged is the moment from which your first memory takes place. Your physical surroundings are nothing more than minuscule creations for the filing family. Nothing is out of their reach. They created my whole world, everything I know, everything I do, in the blink of an eye, stored it onto the cartridge, plugged it in, and bam, here I am. Then when you die, you go to the place that I witnessed, but instead of standing back and watching, you are part of the machine, the eternal energy. Then your soul gets another cartridge popped in and you start a new life, with no recollection of your previous million lives. That is why people have memories from past lives. That is why I had a feeling of familiarity with the realm in which I entered. It is because that's where I was inserted from. That's why life is eternal and you never stop being inserted. Each time you are inserted, it is a totally different experience. Sometimes you are put on Earth, sometimes another place altogether. The concept of heaven is this brief period of reinsertion and the erasure of memory. Then you are jolted into another life, with other religions, with other concepts of heaven, all referring to the place you came from, but have no recollection of. I have seen the same basic concept on many of my journeys, but I was never able to remember it. So yesterday I set up a tape recorder and I tripped about 3 times within an hour period because I was so frustrated from not remembering this discovery I knew would help change my outlook on life. Now I have it, I remember it, so therefore I will live my life differently, knowing no matter what happens, nothing will matter when your memory is erased and you start over. So until my next reinsertion, I'll see you later. Fight death with love. First off, I'm an 18-year-old male with a strange obsession for getting as far away from reality as possible. I have a major drug problem, and I'll probably be dead or retarded or psychotic by the age of 30 at the rate I'm going. I'm addicted to crystal meth. I do DXM way more than I should at doses that have me walking around like an ape on crack. I smoke a ridiculous amount of marijuana daily. I smoke a cigarette every 15 minutes. I take double the dose of shrooms everyone else takes when they're in season. I'm always on prescription drugs, mostly Xanax and Vicodin, and then once a month I'll combine all the drugs I do and get so twisted that my friends think I'm going to be permanently fried. All that, and none of it compares to the trip Salvia Divinorum threw me face first into. I tried Salvia a couple of times before and didn't have much of a trip other than feeling stuck to the couch and kind of numb, even with the extremely powerful 20x extract. I have come to the conclusion that it is not worth smoking Salvia unless it's out of a water bong, because I smoked 5x extract out of a bong and I now know what dying and becoming a bodiless soul feels like. My brother and I bought some 5x Salvia extract and took it to his house. I wasn't really excited about it since my past experiences with Salvia were annoying at best, and I was already feeling good from the Xanax, weed, and crystal I took earlier in the day. My brother brought out his bong, loaded a bowl of Salvia, and handed it to me. I took the biggest hit I could and held it in as long as I could. I don't remember exhaling. I was instantly thrown into a dimension so strange and so damn real feeling that I had no clue I was on any drugs. I had forgotten I smoked Salvia. This is what made the trip so special, because I had no clue all this was in my head. I thought it was real. I was still in my brother's living room, but I felt I was on a totally different plane of reality. It felt as if I had been knocked out for a year and then woken up too fast and thrown back into the same place I was when I got knocked out, totally clueless and detached from all that was worldly. That probably doesn't make much sense, but that's the best way I can think to describe the strangeness of my mindset. Then it happened. Everything started to break down, and by break down, I mean literally. The room started to spin in a strange direction that I can't even describe. I felt light. I felt like I was fading. Pieces of me were being broken off. First my shoelaces, then my pockets, then my feet, but so slowly that I was not alarmed until it was only my head left. I asked telepathically to anyone that would listen what the hell was happening to me. I was answered by a calm voice. He let me know telepathically that I was in the process of death, that everyone gets one life and I just lived mine. I then took a look at my life, and I can look at the entirety of my life like I could at a picture on a wall. I remember being disgusted at how pointless and wrong my life was. I wasn't ready to die. I needed to live first. I knew that once I was broken down completely, I would be recycled back into the earth as pure energy with no memories of anything. Like before I was born, I just didn't exist. It wasn't scary. I knew it wouldn't be painful, and I would have gladly let it flow if I was ready, but I wasn't, and I knew that's how it worked and it could not be changed, and I was pretty much shit out of luck. But I still had the feeling I was not finished on Earth. I had to do something and quick. I had only my head left, the rest of me had been stripped away, and the room had sucked into itself. I yelled out with my whole soul that I needed to go back. The voice, who I determined to be just some lowly celestial worker, mostly because it sounded like he answered the same questions I asked 1,200 times a day, asked me what I meant, he sounded confused, and my breakdown started to slow down. I tried to explain reality to him, but it was as hard as describing a salvia trip. He didn't get what I meant, and I continued to break down again. And then I panicked as I realized what I wanted Earth for, what it was that was tying me to the shithole we call reality. It was the girl. I know that probably sounds cliche and stupid, and I probably sound like a 13-year-old, but it isn't, because she was the only thing that kept me from dying, and I figure that makes her pretty damn important, at least to me, and that's all that matters to me. I needed to go back to Earth and spend a lot more time with the girl I loved, and I would do anything it took to go back and be with her. I went postal and started cussing, mostly saying, "This is fucked up." The guided voice was in shock, and I could tell he didn't know what to do. I kept cussing and thrashing the best I could without a body. I was driven by love, and it stopped death for me. I came back to reality, cussing and yelling, and having my brother try to calm me down. It was then I remembered what I smoked. With the room still spinning, I remember thinking about never smoking salvia again and not wanting my brother to smoke it. In fact, I waited outside while he tripped. I didn't want to be anywhere around salvia for a long time. Though, now I wonder what it would have been like if I had been broken down completely. After I was completely sober, all I wanted to do was go see the one I loved and just be around her, so I did. And because of salvia, I'm never too far away from her, and I take it a little bit easier than I did with the drugs I do. Because I never want to be permanently separated from her like I truly thought I was going to be. Not for a long, long time at least. If I ever do salvia again, I think I'd have to have my girl in my arms for it to be a completely positive experience. I still can't tell if this experience was more positive or negative for me.
Positively positive. 57. Suffer from migraines. Trade equities from home office. Day trader. Ex-drummer from the 60s. Done my fair share of drugs long ago. Drive a Dodge Viper. Wonderful wife. Wonderful life. I heard salvia alleviates migraines, so I decided to give it a try. Different doctors have tried different antidepressants, anticonvulsants, along with various other meds. Now Vicodin, Percocet, Ametrix, and Emerge are the only drugs that bring relief. I don't experience the highs from the painkillers as when I first started using them back around 1980. I started taking 300 milligrams of Lamictal around 2 years ago and noticed the migraines lessening in severity and in quantity, but developed hand tremors to the point that I could hardly write my name. The latest doctor looked up info in the database and found tremors to be one of the side effects of Lamictal, an anticonvulsant. Said that 300 milligrams might be a bit much and now has me down to 100 milligrams at bedtime along with clorazepate 10 milligrams to help with jitters. I've been on that dose for 5 weeks, but migraines are occurring more often, so I bought some salvia on eBay. One night about 10 p.m., I informed my wife, who was on her laptop on the kitchen island, that I was going to try some salvia and to kind of make sure I don't get up and wander outside. I went to the bathroom and prepared a pipe, homemade. Used a lighter made for lighting logs in a fireplace. A couple deep exhales and one large inhale held for about 30 seconds. Exhaled and inhaled a second time. Ah, a nice feeling is starting to come over me. Better head to the spare bedroom down the hall before I begin to stumble, as I hear that happens when smoking salvia. I start to walk out of the bathroom, and as I enter the hallway, I hear a male voice to my right saying, in Spanish, "He's not gonna make it." I also hear 2 or 3 female voices on my left saying, also in Spanish, "Oh yes, he will." Now, I'm Mexican. I don't speak, but fully understand Spanish. I get to the bedroom and sit on the edge of the bed, with the light on, looking at the wall in front of me. All of a sudden, in front of me, a large funnel appears. It's made of red vines, which aren't too tightly woven, with red leaves. I recall seeing the bedroom walls through it. It was as round as the room is. I look downwards towards the end of it. It seems as though it's maybe a couple 100 feet deep. All of a sudden, I'm standing on a dirt path, maybe the middle of a street, but standing in sandy dirt. Across the street, I see two kids walking to the left. Behind me, I hear the sounds of kids playing, as though in a playground. Maybe 10 of them, giggling, calling each other, just having fun. I realize I'm in the neighborhood I grew up in when I was a year old. Then I must have blinked and then noticed the wall in front of me. I started to come around and just sat on the edge of the bed. I felt amazed and plain wonderful at what just happened. I stumbled into the kitchen where the wife was, on her laptop, and put my right arm around her shoulder and gave her a nice hug and kissed her. I started to laugh while walking around the kitchen, trying to explain what I just went through. I laughed for a couple minutes. She said, "Must have been nice. She's never done a single drug in her 55 years. This was now the first time I tried it, about 2 months ago now. I smoke about 2 or 3 times a week. Can't say I notice any change concerning my migraines. Funny, in most of my experiences when there are voices, they're in Spanish, and the few people I've seen seem to be wearing clothing from old Mexico. I'm planning on 5X the next time. Oh, do yourself a favor. Go out and buy the CD Global House and listen to the second track, Global House, while on Salvia. I guarantee you'll thank me. Well, take care all. Peace." Panic at the Duplex. This is going to be an attempt of mine to put something to rest that has not given me rest since its occurrence 2 summers ago in 2017 when I was 25 years old. The experience of smoking Salvia Divinorum has left me traumatized. What inspired me to write this account happened 2 days ago. I smoked some marijuana after not having used for 2 weeks. The effects were considerably stronger. What began as the usual euphoric, slipping into a hot bath feeling and body warmth soon escalated to a sense of paranoia, anxiety, and self-doubt. I had been reading Salvia trip reports online the night before, which, combined with the unexpectedly strong effects of the weed, triggered intrusive thoughts and memories of Salvia. At once, everything started to seem less real and more cartoonish with a sinister, nightmarish twist of familiarity. I experienced a thought loop around a made-up word, which I can't even recall at the moment. Ganja or yanga, some nonsense. The word looped excessively in my mind like a hellish Ferris wheel at highway speeds. I could feel my heart rate escalating and felt a claustrophobic need to escape. After a while, I realized I was having a vivid flashback to my Salvia encounter. Before my experience on the diviner sage, my only encounter with a true drug had been with magic mushrooms a month or so prior to this. My friend, who I'll refer to as E, and I split 1/8 of an ounce of dried psilocybe mushrooms during a small vacation to the hill country, and I loved it. I also smoked marijuana daily and drank regularly. My personal interest in the study of ethnobotany and ethnopharmacology led me to discover Salvia Divinorum, and I was excited about the idea that with a few clicks and $20 to spare in my checking account, a totally legal psychedelic could be on my doorstep in a matter of days. So on Wednesday, June 14th, 2017, I ordered 1 gram of 20x Salvia extract from a website online. After it had come in, I remember toying with the idea of smoking it alone in my room. I'm so thankful I never did this. The day for me to experience this substance came. I want to say July 1st for some reason, and I took the small dime baggie it came in, which explicitly warns not for human consumption, and went to E's house. For maximum consumption, I borrowed E's water pipe and filled the bowl to the brim with the dark gray, almost black ground leaf matter. I sat on the bed, which was on the floor, with the bong, and E said not to mind her, that she will just be checking her email. My heart raced in anticipation. I was dressed comfortably for the occasion, in my soft pajama shorts, a loose t-shirt, and socks. I lit the bowl and took the slowest, deepest breath my lungs would allow. The entire bowl glowed orange and sparked occasionally. There was a strange burnt parsley or charred herbal taste and aroma. Nearly all of the leaf matter was completely vaporized in this one breath. A humorous series on the YouTube channel called Let's Go to Class plays with the host Eric attempting to perform various mundane tasks after smoking salvia. He instructs to hold the smoke for around 20 seconds or until your vision starts to vibrate. I set the pipe down and gave E a thumbs up. After exhaling, little smoke was actually exhaled. I began to feel giggly and laugh impulsively, but this feeling was all too soon ripped out from under me. Reality itself was ripped out from under me. The next thing I remember is being catapulted through a tight and twisting tunnel. My mind was becoming a feedback loop of increasing speed and chaos. I remember falling down a spiral staircase that existed in a vacuum before time, where each step was a different color. I thought I couldn't breathe, but somehow knew if I could survive into the last step down, I'd be able to breathe again. As I continued falling down the rainbow staircase towards the bottom, I began to merge and become a part of one of the steps. It felt two-dimensional. I kept saying, "I can't breathe," while E attempted to calm me. She said I shouted various things, such as, "Why are you doing this to me?" and "Help me." I stood up, swatted my arms around, and lunged toward E with my face inches from her. I vaguely recall seeing her face and being familiar. However, it was as if I floated towards her and couldn't come back to my body. At one point, I was trying to hide my face in her arm or lean on her for comfort. This was followed by a sudden recoiling, and I jerked away from her, as if betrayed. I once said, "I have to get out of here," and ran to the living room and kitchen before returning to the bedroom. Again, I vaguely recall seeing the living room and kitchen, but it was as if I was flying through a twisting tunnel. I had no memory of how I had gotten to that state, or even basic autobiographical information. I had no recollection of taking a drug, what my name was, or even what I was. It was as if I had always been a part of that world. There was a sense that this was my eternity, and I had just become aware of it. I remember seeing the room with a cryptic sense of familiarity, but the memory was fleeting, soon returning to a whirlpool of colors. After recalling I was on a drug, I had to try to remember what the method of ingestion was. I remembered it was smoked, so I started breathing heavily, almost hyperventilating, to purge my lungs to try and end the trip. I remember thinking I shattered the bong and destroyed the room. I felt like I was flying and stuck in the ceiling, looking for the neighbors in the apartment above us to get help. Then I briefly recalled my parents and a need to get outside of the house. It felt like I had been soaking wet. I remember trying to tell E something, but to my surprise, it came out as gibberish. I covered my mouth in shock. I was compulsively running my hands through my hair while fidgeting and sweating. I felt like I couldn't stop. I couldn't stop moving. It felt so uncomfortable to be back in my body. I felt like a fish out of water. Slowly I began to recognize my surroundings, but that was the most unsettling part. It was as if I was seeing everything for the first time with no memory of what they were or what their functions were. This was followed by increasingly longer intervals of time recognizing my surroundings. I told E it was evil and to flush it. I started speaking rapidly and automatically. She took my pulse and said it was around 200 beats per minute. I asked for a glass of water, but when she left, a wave of terror ran over me and called for her to come back. I had a bad dizzy spell and for a while thought I might faint. But knowing there is no known lethal dose for salvia was reassuring, and I waited it out. I drank water and played a bit of Bala Kariv's Islamé on the keyboard to try and restore my mind. I laid on the couch and tried to relax. We went to a favorite local bar of ours, and I ordered a pecan porter. I couldn't stop talking or thinking about the experience. I still had passing feelings of it, and felt as though I would return to that void. In hindsight, my dosage was ridiculous. To calculate my dosage, the following experiment was performed. The same pipe bowl that I first used salvia in was filled to the brim with leftover salvia. The measured contents were transferred to a scale and it weighed in at 0.2 grams, 200 milligrams. The website I got it from says their 20x concentration contains 60 milligrams per gram of high-quality salvia. Each gram is equivalent to 33 ounces of salvia leaves. The instructions for the 20x extract on the website says burn around 12.5 milligrams for strong effects. The Encyclopedia of Psychoactive Plants states the main active constituent is salvinorin A, which can induce extreme effects in dosages as small as 150 to 500 micrograms. Raschke, 2005, 464. Considering the website's figures on the concentration of 60 milligram salvinorin extract per gram of leaf matter and the estimated amount of 0.2 grams of leaf matter used, the result is roughly 12 milligrams, or 12,000 micrograms of salvinorin extract. This is 24 to 80 times greater than the psychoactive dose as prescribed by Raschke, or 16 times the amount for strong effects according to the website, are the equivalent of smoking 6.6 ounces, or 0.4 pounds, of the raw Salvia Divinorum leaf all at once. There isn't a day that goes by that I don't think about the experience or that I try to come to terms with it in some way. I've since researched it almost obsessively and either read or listen to countless accounts online. At times, even just listening to or reading other people's accounts on this drug causes me to feel the onset of panic and flashbacks. I think there is something very wrong with that drug.
They want me back. I feel very compelled to write this after reading other reports on Salvia. After learning to do Reiki and having a long year of soul searching, I was finally ready to try Salvia. I did a lot of research on Salvia for about 2 months. First, I tried the liquid extract myself and found that I had to take almost the entire bottle to produce a small amount of transparent visual patterns, but nothing major. I realized it was going to require more than the liquid to take me to another level. I finally bought 1 gram of the 5 times salvia extract from a website. I knew I needed a sitter, but found that there were not many people around who were willing to do it. I decided to ask my younger sister. She has experimented with more drugs than I have, so I felt like she was the best and only person qualified to be a sitter for me at this time. Despite precautions, we both ended up trying it, and this is what happened. We were in my extra room looking at a new glass pipe we had bought. I pulled out the salvia and asked her to show me how to smoke it in the pipes. She packed the first bowl and took the first hit, and then I did the second. The first hit was enough to make her think she was inside a video game. She started telling me that I went under the glass table in the room and the walls were melting. Then she looked in the mirror next to her and decided she did not want to be that player in the video game, even though it was her. She was laughing the entire time. I was laughing at her, but I had no visual hallucinations. I was more concerned about her, and it pulled me out of the small high I felt. About 10 minutes later, she asked me if we should do more. I agreed, and we went out and sat on my hammock facing each other. She told me to take the first hit and hold it as long as I could. She packed the bowl, and I took my first hit. It was on my second hit that I started laughing uncontrollably at her, and then I put my head down on my knees. She said I told her, "They're here. They want me. They are coming for me." Then she asked who they were, and I immediately wanted off of the hammock. She said I got off the hammock, ran in a circle, and finally sat down and laughed again. From what I remember, there was a rip in the world where I sat in that hammock and I fell through it to a place with millions of beings making up everything with their arms, bodies, and heads. They didn't want me to go back. They wanted me to stay. I felt like I wanted to go back to my world, and I felt like they might come out of the tear after me to bring me back. I can remember being half in and half out of that wall or tear between both places and seeing the differences between. We had a fun time talking about this for the next couple hours. Finally, almost at sunset, I asked her if she wanted to go for a walk and smoke the last of the salvia. I told her she could take the first hit since we figured out that gives the strongest high. We went out behind our houses to a field and sat down. She took the first hit and we both shared it. Then she packed another bowl. Before she could finish the next hit, she began to look very strange at me. She kept looking through her purse and then she asked me if she was okay. I didn't get much of a high, so I was thankful to be more sober than her. I could tell she was distressed. Her face was serious and scared. She asked me what was going on, and I told her that we had smoked salvia. She tried to get up and run away from me, and I grabbed her hand and asked her to stay. I told her what her name was, and she said she knew that but didn't know who I was. I told her my name, and she asked where we were again and what happened. Finally, she came down off of it but was not liking what had happened. I kept worrying that she would run away or something in that state of mind. I was happy she was back to normal. In her words, she explained her side of what happened. After she took her last hit, she thought she was in trouble for something but couldn't remember. She was convinced that if she just kept looking through her purse, she would remember what was going on. There were some power lines between us that caused her to be in another place. She said she was in an industrial world that was making that loud sound on the Twilight Zone right after when something bad happens. Then when she heard me talk and say my name, she thought she had been in a car accident. Actually, she was convinced it was some kind of accident and that I had found her in this field. She questioned if I was really who I said I was or if she was. Eventually, she began to come down and know that I was really her sister. At this time, we mutually decided to go home. She kept saying that the amnesiac effect scared her and that she wasn't too keen on smoking any salvia again for a while. We took a walk and talked about our different experiences during the day. I'm going to be 100% honest here and say that salvia has changed me as a person permanently. After falling through that rip in the world, I am still not so sure that what I saw was just a hallucination. I look twice at everything now. I want to do it again just to see if I would go back through the rip and see the beings. As for my sister, she wants to try it again in the future after having some time to think about it. However, we both agree that the other person has to be entirely sober if we're going to do it properly. Also, we are better off in a confined space like my fenced-in backyard or the extra room. In case someone gets up and runs, there needs to be limits on where they can go and if they can hurt themselves. All in all, I think it has brought us closer in the sense that we have shared something that we can't really tell other people about. Be safe.